stellt Gott als Kind. Er kam in unsere Welt auf seiner göttlichen Weise. In Liebe spricht er zu uns, doch nein, nicht laut, sondern ganz leise.
Vor dir verblasst das hellste Licht. Du bist so wunderbar, ja, du bist wunderbar. Wie Feuerflammen ist dein Blick. Du bist so wunderbar, ja, du bist wunderbar.
ich ausstehe, du warst schon da. Wenn ich auch fliehe, du bist mir nah. Was ich auch denke, du weißt es schon. Was ich auch fühle, du wirst verstehen. Und ich danke dir, dass du mich kennst und trotzdem liebst. Und dass du mich beim Namen nennst und mir vergibst. Herr, du richtest mich wieder auf und du hebst mich zu dir hinauf. Ja, ich danke dir, dass du mich kennst und trotzdem liebst. Du kennst mein Herz, die Sehnsucht in mir. Als wahrer Gott und Mensch warst du hier. In allen uns gleich und doch ohne Schuld. Du bist barmherzig, voller Geduld. Und ich danke dir, dass du mich kennst und trotzdem liebst. Und dass du mich beim Namen nennst und mir vergibst. Herr, du richtest mich wieder auf und du hebst mich zu dir hinauf. Ja, ich danke dir, dass du mich kennst und trotzdem. Komm, lass es nochmal singen. Und ich danke dir, dass du mich kennst und trotzdem liebst. Und dass du mich beim Namen nennst und mir vergibst. Herr, du richtest mich wieder auf und du hebst mich zu dir hinauf. Ja, ich danke dir, dass du mich kennst und trotzdem liebst.
Danke, Jesus. Danke, Jesus. Und danke, Jesus. Danke.
Komm, heb deine Stimme, fang an zu singen.
Jesus. Und danke, Jesus. Und danke, Jesus. Und danke, Jesus. Danke, Jesus. Und danke,
Und ich danke dir, dass du mich kennst und trotz.
Oh, danke, Jesus. Danke, Jesus. Danke, Jesus. Oh, danke, Jesus. Danke, Jesus. Danke für Jesus. Danke, Jesus. Danke,
Der Gott, der Meere teilt und uns zur Hilfe eilt, geht uns voran. Der Gott, der Wunder tut, der mächtig ist und gut, geht uns voran. Du bist ein Gott, der sich an unsere Seite stellt, der war und ist und bleibt für alle Zeit. Du bist ein Gott, der uns immer zur Seite steht, von jetzt an bis in alle Ewigkeit. Oh, 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 oh. Der Gott, der uns befreit und seine Kraft verleiht, geht uns voran. Der Gott, der diese Welt in seinen Händen hält, geht uns voran. Du bist ein Gott, der sich an unsere Seite stellt, der war und ist und bleibt für alle Zeit. Du bist ein Gott, der uns immer zur Seite steht, von jetzt an bis in alle Ewigkeit. Oh, 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 oh.
bist mein Gott. Ich werde still, denn ich weiß, du bist mein Gott. Mein Retter, mein Halt, mein Tröster und Freund. Ich werde still, denn ich weiß, du bist mein Gott. Ich werde still, denn ich weiß, du bist mein Gott. Ich werde still, denn ich weiß, du bist mein Gott. Ich werde still, denn ich weiß, du bist mein Gott, der mich sicher lenkt, mit Liebe beschenkt. Ich werde still, denn ich weiß, du bist mein Gott. Ich werde still, denn ich weiß, du bist mein Gott. Wie ein Kind in den Armen seiner Mutter schläft, birgst du mich ganz sicher bei dir. Du stillst meine Stürme, sagst Friede mit dir. Ich werde still, denn ich weiß, du bist mein Gott. Ich werde still, denn ich weiß, du bist mein Gott. Ich werde still, denn ich weiß, du bist mein Gott. Ich werde still, denn ich weiß, du bist mein Gott. Und ich leg meine Last zu deinen Füßen ab. Ich werde still, denn ich weiß, du bist mein Gott. Ich werde still, denn ich weiß, du bist mein Gott. Wer sonst als du? Am Ende der Reise und vom Ziel weit entfernt. Am Ende der Freundschaft und die Freude verlernt. Die Hoffnung vertrieben, verbannt ins Exil. Zum Leben zu wenig, zum Sterben zu viel. Am Ende der Welt bist du nicht allein. Am Ende der Welt wird er bei dir sein. Am Ende der Zeit hat er für dich Zeit. Am Ende der Kraft steht er bereit. am Ende der Welt. Wintergedanken in dir und die Seele erfriert. Wunschbild, das sich im Nebel der Zukunft verliert. Die Träume begraben, du fragst, was bleibt. Die Tränen beklagen deine Einsamkeit. Am Ende der Welt bist du nicht allein. Am Ende der Welt wird er bei dir sein. Am Ende der Zeit hat er für dich Zeit. Am Ende der Kraft steht er bereit. Am Ende weißt du nur, dass er dich hält, auch am Ende der Welt. Am Ende der Am Ende der Zeit hat er für dich Zeit. Am Ende der Kraft steht er bereit. Am Ende weißt du nur, dass er dich hält, dass er zu dir steht, wenn alles zerfällt. Und dass es sein Wort ist, das zählt, auch am Ende der
Sing, oh sing von seinem Jesus, von seiner Gnade, Liebe und Treu, von seinen Bitten, Kreuzesleiden, von seiner Blutkraft, die macht frei. Von seinen Wunden will ich rühmen, wie er die Sünder selig macht. Er hat auch mir durch sein Versöhnen himmlisches Licht und Heil gebracht. Sing, oh sing von seinem Jesus, von seiner Gnade, Liebe und Treu, von seinem Bitten, Kreuzesleiden, von seiner Blutkraft, die macht frei.
Den treuen Heiland will ich preisen. Sein Regiment ist ohne Fehl. Er hilft den Seinen völlig siegen über die Sünde, Tod und Herr.
Sing, oh sing von seinem mach frei, frei, frei.
Das Haupt von Dornen einst gekrönt, krönt nun die Herrlichkeit, vor dem der uns die Füße wusch, knien wir in Ehrfurcht heut. Den, der die Schuld und Sünde trug, kleidet nun Majestät, vollkommene Liebe strahlt ihn, ein Glanz, den jeder sieht.
Dein Name heißt, du hast gesiegt, die Ehre sei dir Majestät. Dein Name heißt, du hast gesiegt, die Ehre sei dir Majestät.
Angst, die uns festhielt, beut sich dem, der unser Friede ist. Sein letzter Atemzug am Kreuz ist der nicht belebt. Dein Name heißt, du hast gesiegt, die Ehre sei dir Majestät. Dein Name heißt, du hast gesiegt, die Ehre sei dir Majestät.
Ich steh auf durch deinen Geist aus der Asche der Ruin. Der auferstandene Herr lässt mich nun auferstehen. Herr, dein Name macht mich frei. Ich verkünde deinen Sieg. Der auferstandene Herr lässt mich nun auferstehen. Ich steh auf durch deinen Geist aus der Asche der Ruin.
Soldaten warten dort am Grab. 3 Tage doch umsonst. Sein Körper lag nicht länger da. Gott hat das Grab gerollt. Gott hat das Grab gerollt. Dein Name heißt, du hast gesiegt. Die Ehre sei dir Majestät. Dein Name heißt, du hast gesiegt. Die Ehre sei dir Majestät. Ich stehe auf durch deinen Geist aus der Asche der Ruinen. Der auferstandene Herr lässt mich nun auferstehen. Herr, dein Name macht mich frei. Ich verkünde deinen Sieg. Der auferstandene Herr lässt mich nun auferstehen. Du bist die Hoffnung für die Welt. Du bist der Gott, dem wir vertrauen. Du bist die Wahrheit und der Weg, der uns zum Leben führt. Jesus, du hast die Finsternis besiegt. Du hast für uns dein Blut vergossen und du regierst für alle Zeit. Dunkelheit bedeckt die ganze Welt. Die Menschen sehen nicht den Weg, wohin ihre Reise geht. Doch wer sich an deine Worte hält, über dem geht auf das Licht, das die Finsternis durchbricht. Jesus, du bist die Hoffnung für die Welt. Du bist der Gott, dem wir vertrauen. Du bist die Wahrheit und der Weg, der uns zum Leben führt. Jesus, du hast die Finsternis besiegt. Du hast für uns dein Blut vergossen und du regierst für alle Zeit. Dunkelheit bedeckt die ganze Welt. Die Menschen sehen nicht den Weg, wohin ihre
Here we go. Good evening, everyone. This is an English radio broadcast live from Tres Palmas. This is the Oasis podcast on Radio Mensajero. We're coming to you live from Tres Palmas. And let's just see if I can turn on the camera here. All right, here we go. And we're trying to get the live stream going on YouTube and Facebook and the radio itself. So, yeah, I'm here with Ella. And hello, Ella. How are you doing?
Hi, great to be here.
Let's see if we can switch the camera over to Ella's face there, Colton. All right, there we go.
Hello.
So this is a lot to handle right now. We have camera going, we have radio station going, we tried to have music going in this, but that didn't quite work out. So we're gonna have to play it by ear here tonight. But yeah, we're in a Spanish radio station, well, mostly Spanish, and we're broadcasting in English. So that's kind of strange. But luckily, I think our audience is already accustomed to the space being in English because we've been playing a program, Heart of the South, here on 8 o'clock every every Saturday evening. So that's sort of an insight into what we're about here. So you can watch us on YouTube with the links to our photos also for a better experience. Our YouTube address is, you would have to search for Mensajero 100.9. So the radio station's name is Mensajero, and you write that MENSAJERO, and then you just type 100.9 in there, and that would be the YouTube channel of our radio station. And Facebook, we're also on there, and you can look for Mensajero 100.9 FM as well. And that's how we get to the live stream here, to the video live stream. We're going to do our best to have a fun evening tonight, just explore a little bit, express how we got here and why we're doing this in 2024. We're kicking off the first weekend in 2024 with something new, with something exciting, and we're going to try broadcasting over several different formats at the same time, which is a huge challenge, but I hope it's going to work fine. So we thought it would be a good idea to start this podcast just to build some bridges. And there are some English-speaking people in this area which listen to the radio, and we really wanted to start informing people in North America about the adventures we have here in the jungle. And so what we're going to do also is I'm going to pull up a website that Ella made, and it is called, I'm in the wrong browser window here. Let's see. It's called choosewisdom.ca, and let's see, I can change around let's check out some photos, and that'll be sort of the way in which we discuss the topic here a little bit. Yeah, Ella, so what caused us to come here to Paraguay? What are we even doing here?
Well, we are here serving the Lord at Radio Mensajero for 2 years now.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So it's been 2 years already. We had an interesting initial phase here in Paraguay, and we lived in Canada before in a very, very cold place, Winnipeg. And as many people in the world know, that's one of the coldest cities in the world. In wintertime, it gets to like minus 40 or something like that. So how did you like Winnipeg?
Oh, it was a great experience. Yeah, I think it was the coldest city with the largest population.
Mm-hmm. I think that's something what it's
right.
like, yeah.
It was great living in when it gets minus 40 degrees Celsius.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite the adventure. I got to brag about that. So
bragging rights. Yeah, so we are still working out the technical aspect of this. So we should probably transition between who's talking with the cameras here until we get the hang of this. And the other thing to consider is that the people that are listening to us on the radio are not going to be able to see the photos. So we have to actually, when we see the photos and we talk about this stuff, we should probably be careful about how we talk about it, because it's going to be weird for people that just listen on the radio. But that's part of the challenge we have here. The radio station has served this community for almost 25 years. And I think it's time to start something new and to start looking into new media to see how we can actually reach more people and fulfill the purpose of this radio station a little bit better. So you always had the dream of sort of living in the jungle, huh? So what do you think of the jungle we live in right now here?
Well, it's definitely a big contrast to Winnipeg. It's very tropical, humid. It gets plus 40 sometimes or over. And it's been an adventure. I just want to mention that we're calling this podcast Oasis Mensajero.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to explain how you got to that name?
Oh my. Yeah, well, there's palm trees around here. The city that we're located in is called Tres Palmas, which means 3 palm trees. And it's by a lake. So I thought the visuals already match up to that. I also like the more, how should I say, the more subtle implications of this. It's that there's Oasis here. There's a water. There's a place you can come to rest your weary soul in a hot country kind of thing, you know. And we kind of want that podcast to have that sort of a feel. So yeah, I pulled up a slideshow from our website, which you put together, correct?
Yes, and I just want to mention that even listeners on the radio can go to this website right now as well, choosewisdom.ca, and find Radio Mensajero, and under radio programs, Oasis, you will see number 1, and you can follow us there. We have 2 slideshows we will be showing. One will be my slideshow, and one is Dan's. I think we're going to start with mine. It's shorter, and then we'll go with Daniel's.
Yeah. Okay, so here's some pictures about the radio station. The people here locally probably already seen it if they tune into the radio station or are in our status at all on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and stuff like that. So this is basically our front yard, eh?
Yeah, I just took a few pictures yesterday of just the area we are in. We live right beside the radio station near the antenna, so it'll be pictures of that and my garden.
And you can see the antenna just rising up out of pretty much the pure jungle there in the back, right?
Yes, we live in a tiny little house across the street from the radio, and there's a tropical forest behind us and the antenna right beside.
Mm-hmm. You always had a desire to come to the jungle, right? What was your dream? Like, where did that originate?
Well, since I was a child, I always liked gardening, plants, nature, outdoors. And I was in my early teens, and I love watching movies that had the tropics in it.
Oh, yeah. There was this one movie with Sean Connery in it, right?
Yes,
What was that called?
It was called Medicine Man.
Oh,
It's a very old movie, but I was so inspired by the jungle rains and so on. And also, in that time, in schools, they taught us a lot about environmental things, and I just always imagined what it would be like. But before getting here, I had to live almost 20 years in Winterpeg.
Winterpeg. Yeah, that's what people that don't like winters call that city up there in pretty much the middle of Canada. So yeah, and you're from Poland, and I'm from all over the place. I've lived here in Paraguay for a couple of years in my youth, and so my mom is from here. My dad's from Germany. And I grew up in Ecuador. I grew up in Brazil. I was born in Brazil, grew up in Ecuador and Paraguay and Germany, and then moved to Canada where I met you. So I'm a pretty, multicultural guy. And now you have to struggle your way through several languages that we have here in Paraguay. How's that going for you?
It's going. Well, this is not new for me to be put into a brand new culture, brand new language. When I was 9, my family moved from Poland to Canada, so I didn't know English at that time. So it was all new, and so coming here, just a repeat. It's just a whole different country and different language and so on.
But you kind of have to learn 2 languages at the same time here, right?
Yes.
And why is that?
Okay, well, Paraguay has the official language is actually Spanish and Guarani, which is quite an amazing thing because even Canada doesn't use the native language as the official language. They have French.
Oh, yeah, they have French and English, yeah.
Right. So it's very fascinating. People love to share the Guarani language, but Spanish is also the main language. And so I did study German in university for 2 years, and so I was exposed to the High German.
Yeah.
But the moment I got here, it was just Spanish. So it's been a challenge, and I have not had any training in Spanish. So.
And the people that do speak German here, they speak a dialect of German as well. So that's been an added challenge for you, hey?
Yes, and then there are Portuguese people around and English speakers too, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, well, we're kind of taking a risk here with this English program because we actually don't know how many English speakers are around. So I would encourage you, if you're listening to us on the radio and you have the chance to look us up on YouTube, you can write in a message, send a greeting, and so that we kind of have a feeling of who's listening, who got the memo on our WhatsApp status, and we would like to know how you like this program, and if basically the purpose for me is to build bridges. There are American or North American people that live here. A lot of people here. There's colonies of 6,000, 7,000 people that actually came from Canada about 75 years ago, and they settled here in communities that speak mostly German and Low German, but they also speak some English. And so those people, I'm imagining a lot of them would still be able to speak English and might not have anything against, having a radio program that's in English that kind of reminds them of Canada, their time there maybe and stuff like that. But also then to reach back towards Canada ourselves. We would love to have the people that we know in Canada and beyond that to know what we're up to here. It's always a big challenge to keep people at home informed about what we're doing. So that's a little bit what I think we're doing in this podcast. What do you think we're doing in this podcast?
Well, it's been on my heart for a long time to be able to share our adventure here, be able to share our work here. And it's been hard just making web pages and so on. It's a lot of work. But I think this podcast can actually be that, where we get to share what we do with family, friends, new friends, and also donors and sponsors. And you put a lot of work into that website, and it's good that we finally get to share that with the people that might be interested in this. And the other thing I love about YouTube Live is that we can have this live conversation right now, and then later on people can go back on our YouTube channel. They can click like,
They can send the program to other people that they think might like it. They might post it in their status on their social media or send it as a WhatsApp link or something like that. So I have the hope that, see, we're in a situation right now where we're at an analog radio station. And analog is still very effective here in Latin America, the antenna, broadcasting out to people that tune in via radio in their trucks or whatever. But more and more we see people, especially young people, tuning into YouTube and stuff like that. And what I think is important is that we have a common focal point here, especially because there's so many different cultures at this in the same region here. We have to find ways for the cultures to sort of engage with each other. And the best way I think that could be done is through having a common narrative, to have a common broadcast of some sort. Because otherwise, think about it. You have your own Spotify list, right?
Yes.
Music Spotify. And the suggestions that come along are all in line with your taste, right?
Yes.
And how much country music have you listened to lately?
Not much.
Okay. Well, the thing that happens is I'm starting to get exposed to more and more country music because I use country music here in the studio, in my work environment. So it's kind of like going down a different rabbit hole than what I'm used to. And it's interesting because my horizons are getting broadened, but I'm also feeling that there are some people that are just sort of zooming in on only what they're listening to, and they have no more common topics to talk about with people. Like back in the day, we used to listen to radio, and then there was this really popular song that came out, right? And then everybody started nodding their heads a little bit and saying, oh yeah, I know this song and stuff like that. And there was a communal experience about that, right?
Yes.
And I don't think that we should lose that. I think internet has the potential to just atomize people a lot, get them into their own little bubbles and not experience what other people are experiencing. So that's a little bit the potential I see in having this podcast, where we share our experience and say, hey, this is something we would like to share with you, how we live here and how we got here and stuff like that. So that's something that you wrote down here too as something we're sharing. So why don't we go ahead and watch a little bit more about your slideshow. You put some pictures together here just so that people could imagine how things are going here. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's our little house.
Mm-hmm.
And the forest in the back.
I would pretty much call it a jungle, yeah.
Well, there's just full of trees and nice ivy going up the tree or vines.
Before we moved into this little house, actually, we found out after we moved in, but yeah, there are snakes around here too, poisonous snakes. And there are also big spiders that come out of this place. So it's actually important for people to keep the perimeter around the houses relatively clean, so that the animals from that like living in the forest don't come and bother us, right? So
we have 2 little kitties, and they are protecting us.
Oh yeah, today one was eating a bird underneath.
Yes, let's forget about that.
You know what?
But
it's just part of the reality of living in the jungle. What do you mean?
Yeah. And the 2 cats, they are outdoor cats.
Yeah.
And I was always a dog person. I never liked cats. But I'm changed.
Oh yeah?
Paraguay has changed me. I always liked dogs because they obeyed, they came to you and so on.
They were loyal.
And cats just do their own thing. And what's amazing with these cats is they live outside. They are free to go anywhere. They are running around, but they stay close and they actually stay quite loyal. And yet you don't have the trouble of really having to take them out for a walk, because they just do that on their own.
That's really funny. Oh, somebody wrote here from Chile. Hi, guys. I'm listening to the podcast from Chile. I really think that the work you're doing there in the jungle is awesome and amazing. Keep pushing, and you will be helping a lot of people. Their best wishes. This is a guy from Chile writing.
Oh, that's awesome.
So this is the cool thing about this podcast. We are able to reach people all over the world. And, it's kind of nerve-wracking, eh? Like, this is the first time you're ever doing a broadcast, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, and this is the first time I ever do something in English, so it's kind of weird for me too.
Eric from Chile. It's
Yeah.
someone we know. Thanks,
It's someone
Eric.
we know. Thanks for writing in, Eric. Yeah, we sent a link out. Full disclosure. Yeah. So, anyways, let's continue on with the pictures here, slideshow.
Okay, so this is just a little insight into my world of adjusting. And because I like gardening, and there's a few pictures of my garden, and I definitely was surprised how challenging it is to have a garden here. I always in Winnipeg.
Winnipeg.
In Winnipeg.
Yeah. Okay.
The only challenge was, the cold weather and bunnies. In the spring, the bunnies would all come out hungry, so they would eat everything. And that was a big disadvantage. But I thought, hey, in Paraguay, there's a good weather. And there's no bunnies. I haven't seen a bunny since Winnipeg. There probably are somewhere, but I haven't seen
Yes,
them.
I've seen bunnies. I know where I've seen them. We went to visit a listener once, and they had a big. I think that might actually come up in my slideshow, but I didn't include the bunny picture. But they had pet bunnies there. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, pet bunnies. But in our yard in Winnipeg, we had just tons.
Wild bunnies,
We
yeah.
actually even had a whole bunch of baby bunnies there too. Anyways, there's iguanas, there's snakes, there's ants. Well, I'm sure the iguanas and snakes eat the bunnies. And with the garden, it's been a challenge. Now, what you see here does not look impressive, but it's because I call it anti hormigas or anti-gato.
Anti-ant.
So it means against. So
Yeah.
I plant things, and then I don't have a fence around it yet. So I put a whole bunch of dead branches and so on to just discourage. And it's also anti-gallina, which is
No,
against chickens. Because here in Paraguay, chickens and dogs and cats and
They have a lot of freedom,
they
shall we
just-
say?
yes, exactly. they roam around,
Yeah.
which is interesting on one side, but on the other side, they could go and help themselves whatever they find in
Yeah.
your garden.
So on the one hand, you have very fruitful and rich soil here, and good weather to grow crops. But
Uh-huh.
on the other hand, you have a whole bunch of animals that try to destroy your stuff, and
New-
fungus too, right?
New challenges, yes,
New
and
challenges.
there's so many ants.
And you are not particularly fond of using poisons in your garden.
No, I'm an organic gardener. I love that.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to put poison on the things I grow, especially if I will eat it, because
Uh-huh.
I feel like it's going to go into my system. So it's been
Yeah.
a challenge not to use, but I have been tempted, and I have submitted to taking some ant poisons because they are so strong.
So invasive.
So
Well,
invasive.
here at this point, I'd like to interrupt ourselves a little bit here and encourage people that are listening locally through the radio station to write into our WhatsApp. It's 0984. Let's see if I know this by memory. 101 200. 0984 101 200. And they can write in and maybe give Ella some tips on if you don't want to use poison, what can you do in the gardening world to keep ants and these unwanted guests under control a little bit? Ella, you said you use cinnamon, or what have you been using
yes,
so far?
I've read that there are natural repellents
Yeah.
for ants, and using cinnamon and strong scented herbs around your plants.
Mhm.
But I do want to mention the chickens that are running around. They are very pretty,
Uh-huh.
and it's nice to watch them. And they eat all the bugs in the back behind the house in the forest. So I'm very thankful for that, because there are spiders so giant.
They're a bit
and-
scary, hey?
Yeah, it's scary. We've had a spider incident, but maybe we'll say it another time.
Yeah, I think we have, we should just sort of keep it,
So let's just finish the slideshow
Let's
there.
finish
Just
the
the
slideshow,
garden.
yeah.
And here's a papaya tree, and this is 10 months old. When we moved into the little house, I started a garden, and papayas, they just pop up everywhere,
that's why they're
and-
called papayas, because they pop up. Get it.
which is so fascinating for me. And it was already in the flower bed I prepared, and I just let it grow. And things grow really fast. Okay, continue on. So just a picture of papayas. And okay, this is a little picture of some food I made yesterday.
You tried this out, a new recipe, right?
I call it empanadas de Polonia.
Which means Polish empanadas. So we're mixing cultures here already, hey?
Yes. So empanadas. What can you tell me about empanadas?
Oh boy. Yeah, they're filled dumplings or pockets or something like that, deep fried, usually with meat in it, and usually with you can also put ham and cheese or choclo, corn, right? What other empanadas are there? Chicken,
Ground beef.
ground beef, yeah. Oh yeah, who we're talking to here is Colton. We should probably show
And
show
we're making him
here.
hungry.
And we're making him hungry. Let's see, control here. Let's just change the camera over. There, this is us in the studio. Hey, Colton. Wave. Yeah, there you go. So luckily he speaks English. That allows him to actually work the cameras here. And let's see, let's move it back.
Yes, thank you so much, Colton, for helping us out. We really need the help.
Yeah, so it's great. There's a lot of people here that do speak English. Ha! Here's somebody that writes in and says, use fire and burn them all.
Good idea. I just want to have a garden after.
With what, pray, shall we burn them all? we would need a torch.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have a slideshow here too. Let me just finish off what we're doing here. Oh man, this seems so.
Should we finish with our empanadas?
Oh yeah.
So okay. Basically, out here in the countryside, we don't have fast food restaurants. There's a few restaurants, and there's lots of what do you call it? Buffets.
Oh yes.
Buffets, and they're delicious. But maybe we'll
There's
go
a
into
lot of
that another
street-
time.
There's a lot of street vendors here too, and you kind of have to be careful with those a little bit. I think I've had some stuff from street vendors here, and it didn't sit too well with me. Let's put it that way.
So anyways, so empanadas is the fast food here. You can pick it up at a gas station, and they're very common. So I made some, and basically I mixed two recipes. Krokiety is a Polish dish where you have a stuffing of sauerkraut, mushrooms, and fried onions. But you make a crepe, and then you wrap it up in the crepe, and then you bread the crepe, and then you fry the crepe. So it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So then living here, I'm thinking, empanadas and this croquete. So I figured to combine. So I'm using the empanada shells with the stuffing of the croquete, and they turned out delicious.
Well, you're making the most of your whole cultural enrichment experience
Oh
here,
yes,
aren't
I'm
you?
just going with it.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last two pictures are basically starting in January, starting this week. I will be at the office more. For the last 2 years, I've been kind of hiding out. I have been helping with some accounting, with numbers, because that's something that's cross
cultures.
cross languages. You can
Yeah.
understand numbers no matter what language. So anyways, I have been helping, volunteering at the radio, helping with bookkeeping. But here's a picture of a staff meeting with other people at the radio. And yeah, it was my first staff meeting, and I intend to join now that I actually understand a little bit more Spanish, so I think I can follow along now. And also I've been put into the responsibility of bringing snacks.
Oh, hey,
for
nice.
the-
You know
for
what?
that.
Where I worked in Winnipeg before this job, it was also kind of a radio job. We were making canned radio programs, or pre-recorded, edited radio programs, and it was a little bit bigger than this organization, but also with a lot of different cultures and languages. Here's somebody else writing in again. Oh, here in Chile, we have empanadas de pino, pine. That is a stuffing made of meat and onions. It's really delicious. Oh, so it's not actually pine. It's but that's what the word in Spanish means. So that's why I was kind of confused. Yeah, I have had empanadas chilenas. They're really good. There's some that have raisins in them too.
Oh yeah.
So we always, when we lived in Ecuador, we would go to the center of the world. It was the equator, a place there. And on the way down there was a Chilean empanada guy. So we'd always stop there and eat that stuff. Oh yeah, I was supposed to change cameras here.
Okay, so I think that ends my slideshow. There might be one more picture, but that's
No, I think that was all. I have a 13 of 13 here. That was all.
okay.
Cool. You know what? The technical challenge here is quite huge in this environment. There is probably a reason why normally podcasters don't worry about music. We're not worrying about music in this one because music also causes copyright strikes on YouTube, so we have to be careful with that. We're kind of overloading ourselves by trying to do these photos, even though we're doing a live radio broadcast. But it just is, it's just part of what we're experimenting with right now, right?
Yeah, it's an experiment, and in the future maybe we'll talk less about the photos, but the goal is that I will always post our
adventures
post what we will be talking about in the website,
on the website,
so that you can always go visit it anytime afterwards.
Yeah.
And the photos will also stay there.
Well, before I go into my slideshow, I'd like to do a little talking myself, a little explaining. So we've been here for 2 years now, and it was really interesting how we actually came here. We were in Canada, and when COVID started, my niece got married, in January 2021.
Yes.
And we started, just getting pictures of the wedding, and we're like, man, that looks so gorgeous in Paraguay. Meanwhile, in Winnipeg, it was all cold and dark and wintry and snowy and stuff like that. And we're like, it's a pandemic. What are we doing here? We're the only ones from my family that's not living in Paraguay. So we decided. I actually came to you, Ella. I don't know if you remember, but I asked you, hey, I have a crazy idea. What if we just moved to Paraguay? And then your first reaction was, no way. You're like, what?
I think part of the reason I said that was because life in Winnipeg was stable, steady, and calm. Almost too calm. And I knew that coming here would be a huge chaos and huge adventure.
We were plateauing, right? We were
Yes.
we're doing well with our business. Things were going okay, and it's just like, what new challenges shall we face? And you know what? My dad had been recording an audiobook. It was called, oh shoot, I forgot what it was called, but it was about this guy in Peru, a doctor that was a missionary in Peru, and he was turning like 40 years old. And his wife told him, nudged him. She said, "You know what? If you still want to do something with your life, you better do it now, because after 40, it's going to be too late." And I had that in the back of my mind, and I thought, I'm 45 already, and I should really, or was I 44 then? I don't remember exactly, but we should really be doing something a little bit more risky and outrageous, right? And it was COVID. There was a lot of uncertainty, anyways. So I thought, might as well plunge in and take another uncertainty dive. But I'd rather have this close to my family. I'd rather explore and be a little bit more experimental close to my family, and in a country where tereré is very common. Here's me drinking tereré. And that's just part of, you'll have to get used to that. If I'm doing the podcast here, I'm going to be drinking tereré here. That's just how it is.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
well, I was just thinking about the timing of us coming here.
Yeah.
And so the desire that sparked in our hearts was January 21. And we saw the wedding online, and we were wishing we were there with family.
Mhm.
And it was really cold out there in January. And that was a spark. And then Daniel started talking to people in Paraguay, mentioning, hey, we're thinking of coming. And then the word came to Radio Mensajero that they were looking for a director.
Well, we had already bought our tickets. So we had already made up our minds that we wanted to move here, but we didn't know yet if we wanted to be in Asuncion, which is the capital city, or if we wanted to move up to Philadelphia, where a lot of my relatives live, which is like a town about 500 kilometers northwest of Asuncion. And I have a lot of relatives there, like over 100. So when we get together for Christmas or Easter, it's always a big feast with a lot of good food and stuff like that. And I think we're both really attracted to Philadelphia because I used to live there when I was a teenager, and I grew very fond of it and I had great memories and stuff. But we were still kind of undecided because my whole family lives in Asuncion, lives in the capital city.
Yes, and I don't like big cities. I don't like traffic and many cars.
Because you like your garden.
I like nature and the garden. So Tres Palmas really suits me.
Yeah.
And the West Paraguay is where the Chaco is, where his family is, and East Paraguay is where we are in Tres Palmas.
And we had gone on a tour about, 6 years ago or something like that? Maybe 7 years ago.
Several years ago.
We had climbed into a bus with a whole bunch of people from Germany and Canada, and we took a tour of all of Paraguay. And we drove through this area. And I remember the ice cream. The first time we had that ice cream here. That was just something else.
Yes.
And we never came up to where the radio station is. The radio station is about maybe an hour's drive from the main highway between the two biggest cities of Paraguay, Asunción and Ciudad del Este. So we never made it up here during that time. But we got a good sense for what Sommerfeld is like and what Bergtal is like. We got our tour around this place and got a pretty good sense. So when the invitation came for me to be a director here, I was like, I don't know how good of a director I would be here, but I'm willing to take the plunge. And since I've been working in radio and I come from a family of radio workers, my parents were radio producers in Quito, Ecuador for 20 years, and that's where I grew up. So my childhood was spent in Ecuador because my parents were doing radio there. And part of that also, I grew up, I guess I didn't really understand or like radio that much. I wasn't really a big radio listener or anything like that. And so immediately the thought wasn't that, oh yeah, this is for me. I wasn't like completely convinced that this was something that I should be or could be doing, but it just seemed like such an odd thing that landed on our desk. And then I said, yeah, let's just go for it. Let's see what will happen here. And then the rest has been just one crazy ride and adventure, and we really like it here, right?
Yeah, I think the timing was perfect because in January we had the spark to come, and by August Daniel agreed to become the director, and by October of the same year we were here. So the timing is amazing, and we attribute that to God, where he puts desires on our hearts, but he also asks us to do certain things and
to step out in faith.
Yeah, step out in faith. And the skill level of doing radio programs. You worked at FLN, and your your dad was a radio producer.
Yeah, that's right.
And so just amazing how this all fits.
Yeah. and it was something that I thought I could do if I really put my mind to it, and if everything here is according to the way it should be. Here's some. Eric is writing in again. It's been really entertaining listening to your podcast, guys. I really feel like I know you better now. You should really do this more often. Sadly, I have to leave now. We have a roller skate gala to attend at 8:30. But a big hug to both of you, and let me know the next podcast chapter. Yeah, this podcast is supposedly or hopefully going to come out every Saturday at 8 now. And we're going to do this live multi-streaming on Facebook and YouTube and over the radio. Thanks, Eric. Thanks for joining us. And I hope to see you again next week. Thank you so much for writing in. This is really awesome. Okay, where were we? We were talking about the way in which we experienced our initial first steps here. So we actually didn't go to Asunción, nor did we end up in Philadelphia. We ended up somewhere totally different in East Paraguay.
Yes.
And East Paraguay is very different than the Chaco, than Philadelphia, let's say, because Philadelphia is a semi-desert. It's pretty much there's very little water. There are a lot of bushes. The green is more like brown green.
Well, there's less rain there, and
Much less rain.
it's usually 4 or 5 degrees hotter.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite a different place.
It is.
Yeah.
So when we came here, we started seeing that there was that there was a place for us, a need, and Eric also says very promising avocado tree. So he's referring
no,
to that
forget
photo.
that. I have another one that's actually growing. That's self-planted, and the ants got to it, but it came back, and I'm just gonna leave it. It's in an awkward place, but I'll take a picture of it sometime.
Yeah. So one of the big things that caused me second thoughts about starting this radio station was where this radio station is broadcasting. So we have a ton of different cultures on the same place here. We have at least 5 or 6. Let's see if I can count them. We have Portuguese-speaking Brazilians here. We have Guarani-speaking natives and other forms of natives that I don't know what language they speak, but Guarani is sort of the common language. Then we have German people that also speak Low German. Then we have Spanish people. That's the majority of Latinos. And now English too. Now we're starting a little bit of English here. But the real challenge is that all these people are trying to live together in this place. And it's interesting because we're in a very rural community. Normally, you associate multiculturalism with big urban areas, with big cities, right?
Mm-hmm.
A metropolis like Amsterdam. My brother lived in Amsterdam for a while. And there's a lot of different cultures that come together in Amsterdam and find their realities there, right? And here it's somewhat different. So can you describe to me a little bit your first impressions of how cultures engage here and how they interact with each other?
Well, first I grew up in Canada, and we were taught that we are the multicultural country, and they were the example for the whole world of what multicultural looks like. So that's fine, and so I lived that. But when I came here, I truly understood multicultural. There in Canada, they say multicultural. You have individual communities, that surround themselves around their where they're from, or language and culture, but it's still generally Canada. It's like multicultural, but it's actually one clump. When I came here, and when I started exploring, and I drove up to Toledo, and this is mostly
this is all Portuguese.
Brazilian Portuguese. I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But before that, we were in Bergtal, which is Low German, totally different culture. And you go to other places, and it's mostly Paraguayan.
Guarani,
And Guarani or others. And to me, I'm like, wait a minute, this is multicultural, where you go to a whole town. And they are preserving their traditions and cultures, and you get to enjoy it, respect it. What was shocking to me is I bought certain things from the Brazilian place, and I gave it to a native lady, and she never ever tried those foods.
Oh, because they hadn't overlapped.
Like melado, which is like sugar cane paste, which is fantastic. I love it here.
And you can smear it on your bread and stuff.
Get it from the Brazilian store, maybe other places too. But what's strange is maybe, from my perspective, I see many cultures and they're staying in their cultures.
But that's what cultures tend to do. I mean, you lived in Surrey for most of your growing up experience, in Surrey, BC, in Canada. And you have pockets of different cultures as well there. So you have the East Indian community, and then you have the Chinese community, and then you have the Polish community, or other Europeans, Eastern Europeans, and then you have Middle Eastern people, and then you have Canadian English people and stuff like that. And you can kind of walk through the city and have this feeling that now I'm in this zone, and then you walk over a little bit further, and oh, now I'm in that zone, and they kind of stick to themselves too. But it's a little bit different. I don't know how I would describe it, but Canada prides itself in being sort of a what would you say it? A mosaic, right?
It's a mosaic.
That's what they say about themselves. We're a mosaic. Everybody can come and establish themselves in Canada, and they get to keep their culture, kind of thing.
Yeah, but I think the big difference is that here there are these individual communities, and they're not scared or ashamed to be that.
Mm-hmm.
There, I found my experience living in Vancouver before I moved to Winnipeg was that the safe thing to talk about
Was the weather.
was the weather and recycling and things that were, surface level, because you might, if you go deeper, you might
offend
disagree
somebody, yeah,
and you might
exactly.
offend. So it was a different kind of multiculturalism.
Yeah, so you have the sense it's very fragile, right? It's like the pieces of the mosaic are glued together, but you're not sure if there's a common foundation, and you're not sure what holds them together, what kind of glue holds them together.
Right, and that's a big thing to discuss,
Uh-huh.
like the foundations. And I see Canada as a secular place
Mm-hmm.
where secular and scientism is the belief that science has all the answers
Exactly, yeah.
for everything,
Mhm.
which is not possible because
Mhm.
they are scientifically based on things they can see
Uh-huh.
and touch and experiment on. So we can talk about that another time.
Mhm.
But if you're living in a culture that's secular, they're saying you can keep your faith, do whatever,
Mhm.
but there's that lack of unity.
Yeah.
And if secularism is what's supposed to be your glue,
Yeah.
I don't think it's a very strong glue.
It's lack of unity, lack of foundation, lack of common direction too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's
So the secularists, for example, they would say, and we could dedicate a whole program to this, but the secularists would probably say something like, our main goal, our main purpose, our main direction is to maximize human flourishing,
exactly.
right? So you have this idea that if we all just work together and love each other and accept each other and are tolerant and stuff like that, we could achieve a future where humans flourish on this planet, and maybe they can even go to other planets. But then you have this sense that there is not a common idea among everybody what it means to be flourishing as humans, right?
Exactly. How can you agree on it when people have different ideas of what flourishing is?
Exactly. You have the sense that there's not a common direction in this sense.
Yeah.
So some people have the idea that, oh, if we just get to express ourselves the way we want to, and if everybody just is tolerant and accepts us, that'll be the best for human flourishing. And then other people are like, well, I don't know if that's going to work so well, because there's some ways of expressing yourself that are actually damaging to humanity, that might actually jeopardize our ability to leave a future generation or something like that, right? And so there's disagreements even among people that don't, that share this common vision for humanity.
Yeah, even among seculars.
Even among
agree.
seculars.
And we had a note here, and I know you liked it. It says, we can't unite around the idea of uniting.
Yeah,
'Cause let's
exactly.
say your heart is, I want to unite. Okay, let's all unite. But you have to have
Something to unite around.
Exactly.
And if you unite around uniting,
The
then
idea of uniting.
and the idea of uniting, then it kind of falls apart, right?
Yeah, it's almost superficial, very
Yeah.
surface level. And we are here, and this is a Christian radio station.
Mhm.
And we get to unite on that Christian level.
On a foundation that is common to, or that we hope could be made, how should I say, presented as a possible common foundation, right?
Yes. I remember the first time I really experienced this unity is when I saw you work at FLN back in
Canada,
Winnipeg.
like in Winnipeg, yeah.
Can you
Mhm.
tell me, what was that like?
Well, okay, we worked with people from Afghanistan, from Sudan, from Morocco, from South America, Honduras. There was a guy from Paraguay. There was people from Germany. There was people from Canada. There's this whole multicultural environment. We were only maybe 20 people that worked there or something like that. But what really stood out was the way in which we rallied around the same cause, right? We were producing radio and TV programs, and it was all just about, we as Christian organizations, right? We go after the book and the man. We have a book, which is the Bible, and we have a man, which is Jesus Christ. And we are unapologetic about that. We just basically say, yeah, we follow this man, and yeah, we use this book as our foundation. So there's no secrets, there's no hidden agendas. If people want to look up what we believe, they can read the Bible. I mean, many people criticize the Bible, and we welcome that criticism. We have no problem with people saying, hey, what about this passage, or what about that supposed contradiction, or stuff like that. And we have been preparing ourselves. I know that LIU, whenever you cook and whenever you do anything, chores at home, you're listening to podcasts about how you can be sure about the thing you believe in. And so many things that people have come to believe nowadays are without foundation, right? So we believe it was worth it to dig a little deeper and talk about the issues that other people might not want to talk about and lay a foundation, lay the groundwork, because that's already happened once in history. And that has given rise to the most free, most successful, I shouldn't say successful, but the most desirable nations in the world. You look at a map that, the other day I was looking at a map that showed sort of the different criteria that people are looking for in a country, right? Freedom index or wealth index or insurance or longevity or these kinds of things, right? And the really amazing thing was that the countries that draw their roots back to the Bible and to biblical belief systems, they consistently score highest on these charts, right? On these maps. You have, and they're the most desirable ones. Those are the countries that everybody wants to immigrate into. Now, the disadvantage now is, or the tragedy is that these countries are starting to axe away at their own foundations, right?
Exactly.
We're starting to see people abandon their Christian roots and abandon the obvious foundation on which these societies were built, and people are disparaging them and saying it doesn't work. It's all bad, and they start creating narratives of how bad Christianity has been for the world. And we would like to offer a bit of a counter argument to that. And so this is why we're unapologetically part of a Christian radio organization and a radio station that actually has, when we go out and visit people, we hear the most amazing stories. And maybe that's where I should transition to some of the photos that I wanted to show. Because I still have, how many minutes? About 17 minutes. Let's see what I can find here.
Yeah, but I just want to conclude, like, the worldview is so important. And when I went to have lunch with the staff at FLN, it was truly an eye-opening of how you can have your culture, your food, your language, all these things, but you can be united in the family of God. And that is so amazing. And for me being here, I'm still learning Spanish, but I instantly feel this connection, because we have the same faith. And here on the station, as Christians, we believe Christ has the answer to the world's problems.
Yeah.
And we'd love to discuss these things on this podcast. And yeah, we're open to discussing other worldviews and how they compare. That is awesome.
That's what I always thought tolerance meant. When I came to Canada, I was barraged with this what's it called? This almost imposing worldview of tolerance, where I thought, okay, but what if I don't want to tolerate certain things? Are you going to be tolerant of me being intolerant?
No. They can't tolerate that.
Yeah. So I thought somehow from the get-go, even when I was 20, I thought there was something strange about that. There was something circular about this tolerance being at the very core of how people wanted to relate to one another, right? For me, tolerance also means something different. It means you can present me with an opinion or a worldview that I don't agree with, but I don't have to necessarily persecute you for it, right?
But you don't have to agree with me.
I don't have to agree with you.
But you can agree to disagree.
I can hold it loosely in front of me and weigh out my worldview against your worldview and judge it by its merits and compare and then make my own mind up about it, right? That's what I think tolerance should mean.
And this other type of tolerance is that you have to agree, you have to endorse what the other person
exactly. Otherwise, you're hateful or or there's something wrong with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the next.
Okay, so my slideshow here. Well, beautiful Paraguay. Look at this picture of the palm trees in Tres Palmas.
Sunset.
Sunset. Amazing colors here. I mean, you just look through here, and then mangoes, of course, right? Wasn't that one of the things that was so amazing? We came right when it was mango season.
Oh, it was so exciting here. And yeah, we came in October, and the mango season is December, January, and they were just dropping like crazy. And for me, it was, instead of looking for an egg from a chicken, I would find mangoes here and there, and I just loved it. Yeah, hyper abundance of mangoes, really. And a lot of people that live here, they are large-scale soya farmers, and a lot of soya export. It's actually one of the main exports of Paraguay, I would assume. And Colton is nodding his head. Colton is a 14-year-old whose dad plants soya around here, right? Yep. Okay, well, we're gonna have to have him on here next time. Once he is super comfortable with doing the camera work there, then we can might put him here behind a microphone and have him join us a little bit. But soya is a very common crop here, and it's a crop corn.
that gets, and corn also. Yeah, they rotate crops here. Soya, corn, and wheat, I think, are the main rotational crops. But also you see a lot of banana plantations. So this is what we're looking at here. Look over a banana plantation with the lake in the background. Just so amazing. I mean, the scenery is just breathtaking. And then I took some drives around. I think I had COVID when I took this picture. I had COVID in 2022. Sorry, what was it? Yeah, it was January 2022. And I wasn't supposed to see anybody, but I still wanted to get out of the house. And so I got into the car and drove around and saw this place here that was close to the river. And then, this was a different occasion. The people that know here and are listening on the radio, they'll know what we're talking about when we talk about balsa. A balsa is a ferry, but it's a very, very precarious ferry. And if you look at this picture that we're showing on YouTube here right now, it's are we showing it? Are we broadcasting this? Yeah, we are. Good. Sorry about that. This is actually where you drive on with a car, and then there's this little tugboat that has a Scania engine. I was talking to the guy that was running this boat, but it just runs alongside this platform and carries people from one end of the river to another. Actually, it's not a river. It's a dammed. Yeah, well, it's got a dam a couple hundred kilometers southeast of here. And so that's what's caused the river to swell. It started swelling in 1983 and flooded a whole bunch of areas here. But yeah, so we loved exploring that. The other thing that just really struck me was the colors here. You have the red earth, the very green field and foliage and grass and all that stuff, and then the really, really blue skies. So it's just so, I don't know, it just overwhelms your senses. That's the first impression. Here, one of our first going out to visit listeners with a car of the radio. This was a couple of years ago this was one of my first experiences going out and visiting people. And this picture is really funny because they had it around here as a prayer card photo. I think it was hanging on the fridge or something like that. And nobody here clued into the fact that I used to work with Ernesto Pinto, who has a regular program that was broadcast over this radio station.
Here at Radio Mensajero.
At Radio Mensajero. So Ernesto Pinto was in FLN in Canada where I worked. And they were using his program here on a weekly basis. And finally somebody clued in and was like, hey, wait a minute, this is the guy that's now our director. So that was really neat to have that experience, to have that continuity, right? So there has been a continuity for me in terms of radio, because my parents worked in radio all their lives. And then this stepping from Winnipeg down here to Paraguay was also a transition that was, made some sort of sense, right?
Yes, and this FLN, which is now called Square
One World Media.
World Media. They still exist in Winnipeg. They are not a radio station, but they produce programs, and then they distribute these programs in different languages all over the world. They're Christian programs, and
they're a production house.
Yes, and Daniel was the main recording engineer there.
And I like the concept of being a production house because as a radio station, you kind of it's a one-off, right? You have a program and it gets lost to
it gets sent out once.
It gets sent out once, and here there's a bit bigger chance to build up a relationship, especially if you're doing podcasts or live broadcasts, and then you have comments and you can rewatch it and you can send the link to people and stuff like that. So that's why I'm interested in doing this more, because we want to produce more stuff. That's why this year we spent a lot of time buying camera gear and lighting gear and extra equipment to be able to handle the addition of these streams that we want to do. Okay.
And I will put a link to this ministry as well onto our website, just in case someone's interested in looking into them. They have Arabic things too, which is very interesting.
Okay. Here's me. One of the first things I wanted to do is climb up the antenna. So I actually used to do that quite a bit. And the view from the antenna is just breathtaking. We have a camera up there now, so I haven't climbed up there as much for the view anymore because I get that through the through the webcam. And just before the program started, you could see a shot from the camera up there on the tower, a rotating shot that gives people pretty good insight into the environment around here. That house down there in the picture is the house that we currently live in. It's a really tiny house right at the foot of the antenna. So, and this is the radio station here. Again, for people that are listening on the radio, they probably know this already. So for the people that are living in North America or are listening in on YouTube or watching on YouTube, it gives you an idea of the size of this thing and whatever. This is the team that we started out with. We had 9 people. Now we have more like 14, 15 people. Depends on how you count it. There's people that volunteer here, people that have part-time positions and stuff like that. But we are growing quite rapidly, and we are adding more dynamic, the challenges. One example is that we basically multiplied the radio output by 4 since we started adding digital radio stations. So there's digital live radio stations that stream 24 hours a day. One of them is in Guarani, one of them is in Low German, the other one is in Portuguese, and the other one is a repeater of what comes out from the antenna. And those are all available on our app. So you can go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download those just by looking for Radio Mensajero or Mensajero 100.9. Mensajero is the Spanish word for messenger, because that's what we are. We're the messenger radio. We're messenger radio. So then here, you took on a position here as accountant help, right?
Bookkeeping.
Bookkeeping. How's that been going for you?
It's going good.
Challenging, huh?
It's good. There's different styles of things than in Canada, but I've been doing our bookkeeping for our business, so I'm familiar. There are definitely a lot of similarities. That's why it hasn't been too hard.
Yeah, but it's nice that you're joining us now in our weekly meetings. We have these meetings where we do what we call capacitación. It means training, and we just spend time together. Also developing. One of my ideas is to develop a culture here as a radio. Just the same way as you observed when you came into FLN the first time, where I used to work. It's like my idea is if we can manage to uphold a culture here that works out well, then that's something that's worth broadcasting, right? So an intercultural thing like that. Yeah. So here, just a couple of scenes from what you would expect to find if you drive through the rural areas of Paraguay. A lot of listeners that are very, very rural and rudimentary in their lifestyle.
Yeah, there's a part of what people do here is do listener visits.
Oh, yes.
It's a super important part of the radio ministry. Listeners, they contact Manuel, and he arranges visits. It's super.
Manuel is a Guarani producer here.
Yes, super awesome, super exciting. I don't know if we'll have time today to talk about that, but I actually got to go along sometimes, and it was just the most amazing thing. And you're visiting people living way out in the middle of nowhere.
I think I've visited around 300 people so far.
Wow.
300 of our listeners.
And I've only gone to a few visits, but do you want to tell us one special visit?
I think I'll come to some pictures here, and that'll be, we're closing in on the final stretch here. So this is how people live here in these kinds of houses. This is just such an awesome shot. It's of a girl holding her little sister, and it just really captures also I don't know, for me it captures the character of the people here, right? That live out there, and this was in Mil Palos. And what's going on here? We have a...
No, just keep going.
Oh, okay. You see, I've had to learn to share meals with people here that at first my stomach was not really excited about, because they have, I don't know, it's just different food, right? So this was an example of me arriving at 9 a.m. at a listener's place and them being so eager to serve us. They had what's this? It'd be fish cooked in an aluminum pan over an open fire with vegetables in it. They call it chupin here. It's actually a really good recipe, but it was just weird to be eating this at 9 a.m. along with, cassava or mandioca or whatever you would call that. But it was an interesting experience. It added to and here's other typical food. This is very typical here. It's tallarin with the homegrown chicken, and the chicken meat here is something else, man. I mean, the chickens are almost as big as turkeys. What we're used to there, like the chicken leg is, They're
running around free.
Yeah, and you see a lot of like rustic homesteading style. This is a well that I took a picture of there because I just thought it was so rustic, and this is how they draw water. This is how they get their drinking water, right? They have no what would you call it, connection directly to the city water or anything like that.
We don't either.
We don't either.
We have well water.
We have well water,
fresh
exactly.
well water.
Yeah.
And we burn our garbage.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's
a story
does that go terribly against your conscience?
That's okay. We'll talk about that next time. Will we have time to mention one visitor story?
I think so. I'm hoping to come here. Here's a visitor that we stopped by a, what's it called, brick factory. And they were very faithful listeners, and they showed us around. I had a video here of that, but I don't think that made it on the website. Here's another guy that invited us to his home right by the lake, and again with the terere, like you always have here. And the lake, I mean, there's just such a beautiful nature here, and really amazing. Yeah, this guy, I want to tell a story about this guy. This guy here is, he lives in a community about maybe 40 or 50 kilometers away from here. You see him here with his family and neighborhood. I'm not exactly sure the extent to which all of these people are his family. But what happened was when we arrived there, we had an interview with him, and it was all in Guarani, so I didn't understand a word. But it was an amazing interview. This guy said he listened to the radio station for like 17 years of his life, right? He just pretty much spent the whole last 17 years listening to the radio station, so he was familiar with all the messages we had here about leading an orderly life and being there for your children, being steady and reliable and whatever. And it came to a crisis point in his life because he was suicidal and he was having all sorts of problems. He was alcoholic. And then he started drinking so much that he would just pass out and be on the streets, right? And then a pastor came along and tried to pick him up and said, "Hey, come to church, get yourself cleaned up. We can clean your life up, right?" And this guy's like, no, I don't want to. Until about, I think it was 5 days that he was just always refusing this pastor's help. And finally said, "Okay, fine, I'm going to drink myself to death if I keep going down this path." And then the pastor took him to the church, and there he just changed his life around from one day to the next. He said he had no more urge to drink alcohol. And that's really almost like a miracle to me, because I think that if you condition your body to drink alcohol, you have to slowly taper it off, because otherwise it can cause a severe shock to your system, right? And anyways, the first thing he did was he implemented everything he had been learning from the radio station over the last 17 years, and got together with his family and started celebrating Mother's Day and Christmas and birthday with his wife and stuff like that. And the kids were around. And so as we got to know this person, we started singing songs with him. There's a video of that here too, which I would love to be able to share.
I'll put it up.
Okay, you can put it up on the website, right?
Yep.
But as he shared, it became evident that he had become a leader in his community, right? Because when he started telling his story, people started gathering around, and they started sitting in a chair around in a circle, and we're like, wow. And that was just one story of how we can see what the radio does here to people, right? So 17 years of just getting sort of a glimpse of this worldview that we're inviting people into. Mm-hmm. No forcing, no manipulating, nothing. It's an open book. People can reject it. People can turn off the radio. That's all it is, right? But then once they accept it, it's like a switch gets flipped, and they know what to do. They know how to live their lives. So that's something really encouraging that we like to see here. And that's kind of what keeps us going here in this area as well.
Yeah, well, we are for the gospel. We are for exploring different worldviews, and we believe that Christianity is the way, the truth, and the life. And we invite people to it. We want to explore these things on this podcast.
Yeah, I have one more thought. We still have a minute or so. My thought is, lately it struck me how much God puts on the line for our freedom, right? Many people think of God as a mean old man sitting in the sky prohibiting us from this and from that. But we just started a Bible reading plan last week to kind of kick off the new year. And it struck me in that story, it said that there were thousands of trees in the garden that Adam and Eve could choose from. So God created a universe, created a garden, put Adam and Eve there, the first humans, and they had the choice of a lot of trees to eat from. But he put one tree in there that he prohibited them from eating from.
He prohibited, but he didn't build a big wall around it.
Right, exactly. But the thing is, think about this. Would the people have been more free or less free had God not put that tree in the garden?
Yeah, less free.
They would have been less free. They wouldn't have been free to walk away from God, right? So from the very beginning, from this narrative the common narrative of Christianity is that from the very beginning, God had a severely high interest level in getting us to be free and to choose him freely. If anything, we should choose him freely and not as a result of coercion or as a result of not having any other choice, right? So the fact that he put the garden in that tree means that he said, you're free to walk away from me, right? And the same thing we see from Jesus, when he walked the streets of Galilee and stuff like that, he would tell people, hey, don't you want to turn away from me too? Like when the going got tough and when a whole bunch of people left him, he turned to his 12 disciples and said, don't you want to leave too? And Peter said, no way, man. We know that you're the guy that has the words of eternal life. So on that note, I think we should end the program. We have 10 seconds left. And thank you very much for joining us. And we're going to say it till next week then.
All right, till next week.
El siguiente programa en inglés se llama Heart of the South. Es un programa musical de